All right, I am going to call this meeting to order. Hello, everyone. The room is so packed. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm the chair of the OAC. Welcome, and thank you for attending today's meeting. Even though it just passed, happy Lunar New Year. Happy Black History Month. All right, we ask that everyone place their phones on silent, and if you're joining the meeting remotely, to please mute yourself when not speaking. If you're a member of the public attending in person and would like to provide public comment, please raise your hand and I will call on you. For the members of the public providing comment remotely, please click raise hand or press *9 and wait for the Zoom administrator to notify you. When it is your time to speak, all comments will be taken in the following order, starting with in-person participants and then remote participants. Each speaker will have the standard 2 minutes to speak. When your time is up, you'll be notified by the Zoom administrator. Rebecca, please start the roll call.
Member Andre Tory.
Present.
Member Aaron Yan, absent. Chair Jada Curry.
Present.
Vice Chair Leslie Simmons, absent. Member Skylar Dang, absent. Member Ryan Galvez.
Present.
We do not have quorum.
So we are going to move the agenda around a little bit because we don't have quorum. So we are going to still go forth with item 2, which is the general public comment. So this item is reserved for public comment on items not listed on the agenda. Is there any in-person public comment? Okay. All right, is there, Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
There's no remote public comment.
Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed, and we will move forth to item 5, which is a report of the service provider working group. So Madison, if you're ready to go, yeah, you're up first.
Hi everyone, my name is Madison. I'm she, her pronouns. Frederic, our chair, is not here today, but I'm joined by Egypt, our community engagement coordinator. So just a couple updates for today. First, I just wanted to start off by thanking some DCYF staff who recently helped us with a couple different requests. Maria and her team answered some of our member questions around the recent RFP process, which will be shared out at our next member meeting in about 2 weeks. And then second, Rebecca from the data team supported a data request for our research project. We just really appreciate the partnership with your staff, Maria. We know that these requests take time out of your busy days, so we appreciate that. The second update is just around the wage equity study. So I gave an overview last month of what the project is about. So today I'm going to go over what our data collection efforts are and where we're at with it. So the first part of our project is really trying to tell the story of the demographics of the nonprofit workforce here in San Francisco. So we put together a survey and we distributed that survey. It launched a couple of weeks ago now. We have 160 respondents so far, but we need all of your help in getting the word out. So it is a survey that's intended for individuals, not organizations. So any individual working for a youth-serving nonprofit in the city of San Francisco can participate in this survey. And it's going to help us build a representative sample of who the workforce is to be able to do some better storytelling around race, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, as well as wages and other benefit information. So I'll share that, Rebecca, with you, and maybe you could send that out to the members as well so that they can share it with their networks. We are raffling off some gift cards for participation, so I'll make that big on the flyer for you all. So the second part of the project is identifying multi-sector best practices to address wage equity in the field. So what we're doing for this data collection effort is doing interviews with folks from different sectors. So we're focused on raising the perspectives of folks from the city perspective, so city departments, from nonprofit leadership, and then also from the philanthropic lens. So what we're trying to do is really highlight the fact that one group can't do this on their own. Raising wages for nonprofit workers will take a multi-sector approach. We want to make sure that all of those different people have a voice in this process for identifying what are the best practices, what are the strategies that my industry, that my sector can do to help support these efforts. So I did put in a request with Maria to do an interview today. So we'll talk more after the meeting. But yeah, that is the second part of our research project. So we're really excited to have this in the works. Obviously, you all will get to see the final product and hopefully share it around. But that is our update there. Lastly, I did just want to highlight that there was some confusion and frustration with some of our members around the Summer Together survey that went out. So we found out and kind of did some conversation around the Summer Together funds that was just supposed to go out to a specific group of organizations, but all of our members talk all the time, and so it did get shared out with a lot of folks, which caused some confusion. So I'm glad we were able to communicate with Maria and Sharice and clear that up for our members. But that was a sticking point for folks, just kind of some confusion on, obviously, Summer Together funds look different this year, and so wanting more clarity on better understanding, like, how it's going to look and who the survey was intended for. But glad we got clarity on it. So those are our updates for today.
All right, is there any in-person public comment? For this report? All right, Rafael, is there any remote public comment?
No public comments.
All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item? I know. No, no. Okay, I just have a quick clarification. The Summer Together funds, I'm sorry, that was a survey that was sent out, and there was the confusion around where the funds would be allocated.
Yeah, so it was for additional Summer Together funds, my
Oh, okay.
understanding, and so
Okay.
it went out. You know, last year it was a different process with the Summer Together funds, and so I think a lot of folks were waiting to find out, like,
Yeah,
what's the process this year? And then there was a separate process that they were trying to do to establish additional funds.
Okay.
But now, my understanding is the only Summer Together funds that there are those that will be integrated into awards, correct?
okay, good. Okay. Any other committee members want to comment? Okay, all right, well, thank you for your report. Now I think we have to circle back to roll call. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay, Rebecca, can you please take roll call?
Member Andre Tory,
Present.
member Aaron Young,
Present.
Chair Jada Curry,
Present?
member Ryan Galvez,
Present.
members Leslie Simmons and Skylar Jane as absent. Okay, we have quorum.
All right, so now we will go back to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes. So we are approving the November 2023 and January 2024 minutes, since we did not have quorum in our last meeting. Is there any in-person public comment on this item? All right, Rafael, is there any remote public comment?
No public comments.
All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item? No comment. All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes, January 11th.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Rebecca, please take a roll call vote.
Member Tory.
Aye.
Member Young,
Aye.
Chair Curry,
Aye.
member Galvez.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
All right, perfect. Moving on to item 4, which is the budget presentation for the 2024 to 2025 and 2025 to 2026 fiscal year. So I will hand it over to Maria and Heidi.
Yes, so good evening, committee members. As I shared with you all last month, DCYF was asked, along with the rest of our city brothers and sisters, to make reductions to meet the city's declining budget outlook. And we had proposed back then that we were going to work with our city departments to make appropriate reductions, work with the mayor's office to make sure that those reductions were appropriate. We do have some news in this presentation that unfortunately I'm going to preface that's not really that great because as pretty much as the weeks and the months go on, reductions continue to pile on. And as I alluded to last month, as we make proposals for reductions, other city departments are also making the same proposals for reductions. And what we realize is that we cannot make the same type of reductions. And so this is where it is a truly iterative process. And so some of the proposals that we had originally thought we were going to reduce ended up not moving forward with reductions. And as a result, we have to now start considering proposing reductions within the RFP. So I just want to preface all of that because I know that that is a very top of mind topic for everyone. But just know that we are literally looking under every rock to try to figure out how to meet the budget needs and our own budget requirements, as well as meet the needs that we know our community and children, youth, and families need. So I'm going to hand it over to Heidi, our CFO, to just run you through very quickly the highlights of this, and then we can open up for questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll go through slides really quickly, just so we have more time for discussion. Feel free to ask any questions at the end. We can go back and revisit any of the detail on these slides as needed. All right. Next slide, please. This is just the budget timeline for folks who are unfamiliar, noting that we are about to submit our departmental budget submission. In prior years, definitely the last two, we have submitted what was presented at our second budget presentation, but I think, again, just given how dynamic this year is, we may be making changes over the next few days. But what we're presenting on is what we have as of today and expect to submit next week. Good luck. All right. The fiscal outlook, again, for the next 2 years, the city projects a shortfall of $799.2 million. In short, rising costs and declining revenues. I'll just flag one more piece of information as the 6-month report is being prepared and will be released shortly. We have an indication that the Children and Youth Fund balance will decline. It's funded by property taxes, so we're preparing for a need to make up additional funds and should have that information shortly. The mayor's priorities in light of this outlook are 4, improving public safety and street conditions, citywide economic vitality, reducing homelessness, and transforming mental health service delivery. And the last one, which is really relevant to us, accountability and equity in services and spending. And then departments were required to reduce general fund cut 10% in each of the 2 budget years, and also provide an additional 5% contingency cut for each of the 2 budget years. And before I get into the detail of our budget, I'll just repeat what we talked about in January. DCYF did not look at labor to make our cuts because the majority, among other reasons, the majority of our positions are funded in the Children and Youth Fund. So we have a few positions that are in general fund because they're required to, either grant funded or because of the nature of the role. So that is not an option for cuts. So many departments would be looking at vacant positions or otherwise addressing that way, but that is not an option here. Next slide, please. This just shows you our 24-25 proposed operating budget and other programs. So the operating budget's the big royal blue slice, and we'll get into the detail of the source there. We have our funds going to SFUSD in orange. Student Success Fund in this will be year 2. We're showing next year's budget at 35 million, and then Free City in yellow at 16.9 million. Next slide, please. So this is the operating budget. The Children and Youth Fund represents 70% of this. That's the biggest slice. General Fund is 46.8 million. And then we have a smaller slice. We have some federal and state grants that we receive. Next slide, please. This one is everyone's favorite always. I'm happy to go into as much detail or not, but I think I'll just highlight if you're comparing year to year, and if we look in the blue section, the expenditures and the city grant program, we have in current year, the board approved budget of 137.6 million. And next year, that's 118.4, and in the second budget year, it's 118.1. And I'm just noting, it's a little complicated. We had some one-time funds, we had some funds that are expiring in current year, and we have student success funds also that were that have affected the budget based on how you see it. You see a reduction between current year and next year and the funds in this account line. That's not the only account line that funds our CBOs. We also have money from work orders and other sources, but there is a reduction. That said, and if there is one piece of good news in this presentation, it's that the budget we're presenting will allow us likely to fund while at the low end of the range in the RFP that was issued. So while it looks stark here, and it certainly is as a person on the finance team here, these are numbers I don't love to see. We are still looking at the low end of the range in the RFP. Again, this is part of the packet. It's on the website. We can get into any detail about any of this, but if that is your key focus, I want to make sure that's very clear, and then we can focus on those questions as opposed to understanding this slide that is a tough one to love. All right, next slide, please. So I just spoke briefly about the cut targets, and these are cuts from just general fund, which again is a small slice of our operating budget. As positions are not part of our general fund expenditures that we could cut, this is what we had proposed to meet our cut. Work orders. So services, we requested by the departments, carry forward from prior years. And we had some ongoing funding that was duplicative that we have proposed cutting. Unspent funds, we were still in planning phase, so it doesn't affect any grants, any current work. And we moved some funding out of DCYF operations. For a contingency cut, this is where there might be some more interest. If our 5% contingency for each year is required, we reduced by 1 million in 4 areas in the RFP. And again, this was requested of all departments as a contingency, meaning the 10%, the top of the slide, we fully expect will be reduced. The 5%, we do not know. We were required to provide it. It would be our hope that the 10% would meet needs from this department. But again, as the mayor and the board are looking at city situation, they might call us to use a contingency list as well. And I think that's the end. That is the end. Please, any questions for Maria, for Sharice, for anyone? I'm happy to provide additional detail. And if you want to review the slides again, they're part of the packet. They're on the website. We can provide you with any info needed.
All right, thank you, Heidi. Is there any in-person public comment?
So you mentioned obviously that there's an expected decline in the shelving fund as well as the general fund, and that means that there might be some making up to do from DCYF. And does that mean like individual fundraising? Like, so what other sources are, I mean, obviously state grants, potentially federal grants, but what does that look like?
I think, do you want to answer?
Sure, well, this is why, in building this budget proposal, this budget reduction proposal, we took into account the children's fund reduction as well. But yes, we need to do more aggressive fundraising, as we try to hold our services whole. But right now, there are no additional fundraising.
I think I would just add, we could not propose any reductions in positions to meet the general fund target because our positions, for the most part, are budget and children youth fund. Delays in hiring, any of that results in current year savings. So if we have a drop in revenue this year, it might be met by delays in hiring, so we do not have payroll costs. So those are the types of, it's the monitoring we do each year. This year it might be more dynamic as we look at that, but certainly it's the first place I would look. So a savings that doesn't impact any one or any program, anything funded. And
I have a question about, as I understand it, so the proposed reduction in grant fund is the contingency plan for budget reduction how does the budget process affect the timing for grant awards?
As you can imagine, I'm not the most favorite department head right now.
Yeah.
Because I do have what you can imagine the city perceives as a blank slate,
Yeah.
right? I just want to be super honest. There is a perception that, oh, you're not making cuts because you've just wiped everything clean, you've just pressed the reset button. So you're just making reductions within the available funds to then offer up to CBOs.
Mhm.
Our argument is that, well, actually, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Because there are many CBOs that have after-school programs that we would like to continue. If we do make $1 million in cuts to that strategy, based on historical information that we know, that means we are looking at, let me use my cheat sheet. We're looking at reducing around 300 slots for our after-school. Right? If we make $1 million reduction in workforce, that means we are looking at reducing another 200 young people. So that's the translation that we're using to help folks understand the impact of taking our contingency funds.
Mhm.
But we do need to propose it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be submitting this budget proposal, next week. We are scheduled to announce awards, in mid-March. So our hope is that the mayor's office accepts this proposal and nothing else, and there's no anything else. And that we can then just move forward with this. My only fear is that there's already concerns, and I mentioned this last time, of the impact on the state budget. And how that impacts, once again, we are one city department within 60 other departments. How the state budgets will impact the city's revenues and of course, the city's ability to provide services. And of course, it's services to our most high need families and communities. And so there's this very delicate balancing act that the mayor has to do and the mayor's office has to do. So long-winded answer to say that we're hoping and praying that this is it. And that if it is it, then that's what we're looking at. You know, 300 young people, 300 slots reduction in OST, 200 slot reduction in YWD, services reductions, and things like that. If the mayor's office comes back and asks us for a deeper cut, I think that's when we'll have, that might delay the RFP announcement.
Okay, thank you.
There's just no way for us to come out with an RFP announcement.
I guess that was gonna be my follow-up question to that, like if the contingency cuts come after the RFP release, like if there's gonna be thought given to the process for how you make those reductions and process, like equitable reduction across all grantees, or what would be the process?
It's going to be quite painful. So we also know, and what I've communicated with the mayor's office is that there's a certain point where we have no choice but to announce the award amounts, because a lot of CBOs have to run summer programs and they need to know what their amounts are in order to prepare for summer.
Yeah.
So there is a point that Sharice keeps saying is mid-March. But if it is not, and we have to hold for a little bit, there is a point where we have to, because it takes us, as many of you already know, it takes us many weeks to go through the grant making process. Because we have to go through the city attorney's office and the signings and all of those things in order for you to, in order for us to have grant making authority. Because the other nuance to this is that by June 30th, DCYF will not have authority to send any current CBOs money. So it is it's a huge issue for us. All right, so we need to make sure that we have the grant authority so that we can then continue to give you money. And we need to secure that grant authority as soon as possible. But it's going to be a very difficult year. It's going to be it's gonna be quick, it's gonna be a very quick turnaround. So Sharice and her entire team are going to have to work very hard to get those contracts in place. And then we will make sure that our city attorney has all the resources they need to sign it, to turn it around, and then our finance team can enter into our system just to secure the grant authority. Because the billing will come later, but we need to make sure that we have the authority.
The billing will come a lot later though.
It won't come a lot later. It'll come a little bit
Promptly.
later.
I have one last question. If on that point, this year there was a lot of delays in the contracting process. Not like, I know DCYF had some, but I know other departments like in which city and stuff had significant delays.
Yeah.
That's obviously something that really impacts cash flow for nonprofits. Do you anticipate more delays with the?
Sharice,
Well, I don't wanna say no, I'm hoping, so we have a different process that we, take into account everything that's happened in the past. We kind of streamline exactly what we wanna do, and that's why it's really important for us to know my deadline date to have that done. So pretty much contracts, if everything goes accordingly, will actually be ready to go by July 1. But a lot of that also is on the agencies when we ask you guys to complete and sign work plans, to complete and sign the work plans within the deadline we're gonna give you. So what we haven't done in the past is actually, we give a deadline and say you need to complete it, but there's actually gonna be a smaller turnaround for agencies to sign off on your work plans for those who get funded. That's gonna be an important key piece in order to get the contract done and out and in place by July 1, August 1 at the latest. So folks could be able to bill.
Right, any additional in-person public comment?
Yeah, I have two things. Sharice, Mike Long told me that he reached out to you, I think, about, maybe like compiling a list of like other grants we could look for. Is that something that's like in the works, or could we support on that or anything?
So what he asked for is a list from other city departments who might have RFPs that are coming out that will, folks can, that is aligned to ours and that folks can apply to. And I told him, yes, I'll work on in the announcements, having here's all the other RFPs that are either gonna come out or scheduled.
Okay, awesome. And then another question I have is, do we expect that like these cuts are gonna put pressure on like ELOP funding? Is it gonna be harder to get, whether we?
so I've been trying to study the state's budget, particularly their education budget, and if anyone can help me, that'll be wonderful. It's very, very hard to understand. So the state 2 weeks ago released a statement, the governor released a statement saying that he was going to allocate, I think, $1 billion something, I don't remember, $2 billion to local school districts to support learning loss that young people experienced during the pandemic and that has, of course, continued. But if you continue to read more, you realize it is not new money. So it's reallocated dollars, which then makes me very, very, very nervous about where the source of these reallocated dollars are coming from. One reading, once again, I'm not an expert on state funding, but it looks like it was COVID money that was being reallocated, and then there's other sources that come in. So anyways, once again, I don't know, but if the state is reallocating existing resources that school districts have been relying on to support learning loss, that has another impact for our CBOs who rely on ELOP dollars. ELOP dollars are extended learning opportunity dollars that our school district receives from the state, and then they use those dollars to allocate to nonprofit agencies to support them in running after-school programs. It's a very difficult situation, and as I shared before, the city and quite frankly, the state is in this position because we spent a lot of money during COVID that actually hasn't been reimbursed yet and hasn't been paid yet. So it's now, it's slowly becoming the city and local jurisdictions' burden to absorb those costs.
Any more in-person public comment? Okay, Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
Yes, there is one comment question by an anonymous attendee. They're asking, so to summarize, not all areas of the RFP will be cut from.
I choose to answer this question. Is that okay? Okay. You're right. Not all, not all. There's certain strategies within the RFP that if we were to cut, we would just completely eliminate that entire strategy. We've decided to cut strategies that had the largest funding amounts inside it to allow us to ensure that there's continuity of services. So our two largest buckets in the RFP are OST, our out of school time strategy, as well as our youth workforce strategy. Sharice, should I, anything else?
No, that's exactly the rationale. One has 25 million, one is 20 million. While the rest are 1.3 or 5, like, it's a much lower, and taking $1 million out would be a significant increase in those programs, and the number of slots that people have.
Okay, is there any additional remote public comment? Then public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item?
Comment. Well, first off, I know how difficult this is, so I know how much time you guys spent on this, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you guys put forward, and I know there's not much per se you can do, but maybe just in terms of when presenting this budget, I know that was smart in terms of like, oh, this is 300, this is. But I would also kind of like, there's a lot of synergy between what's being cut and what the mayor's priorities are, and I would also just argue that, you know, a lot of the programming that you can get for this $1 million does improve a lot of the priorities that you're looking to kind of focus on. And so I know that you guys are doing everything you can, but I understand it. So I just appreciate all the work that you guys have done. I know how difficult these decisions are. So, but you know, our youth are out there, and you know, they kind of unfortunately are falling into homelessness and falling into, you know, a lot of violence prevention stuff that we need to be doing, and hopefully, I'm sure they will see that. And I know they're not trying to come out with this, but I just hope that maybe we can just lay out some of that synergy. Like, hey, like, I know this is just our contingency, but if we do take this contingency, like, there's a lot of synergy between what you're prioritizing and this funding that we're trying to close. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Any additional member comments?
I guess I was curious, echo everything Aaron said, and I appreciate y'all, and I can't even imagine, what both grantees and you all are going through. I'm curious if you, were around in 08 or 2011 and what
yeah.
y'all, so it's like first hurdle now. I hear what you're doing for that. Probably hard to even look past right now, but then, what does additional fundraising look like? What'd you do back then? How'd you weather the storm? And just trying to bring some hope into the world.
I don't think there was, I'm looking at
Not a lot.
Michelle, there was not a lot of hope. It was very painful. I very distinctly remember that, that moment in time, because it was in this room, a packed room, and I had to make that announcement. And to the question that came through, online, during that time, the cut was so large. And so back then, it was actually the same amount. So we're looking at 24 million right here over 2 years, right? So it's 12 million, 12 million. Back then, we were looking at around 20 million over 2 years. Oh, no, it was 20 million per year. So it was a very large amount. But once again, back then, those types of, that number is significant, right? You know, that was what, 20 years ago, and the dollar values is very different, and our CBO's capacity has changed and all of these things. So what we ended up doing back then was, we actually had a very large layoff within our own city department. So we lost very key, valuable folks. There was major layoffs across the entire city. And then we had to eliminate, I think, three complete strategies from our portfolio. And we actually also eliminated our technical assistance and capacity building work, as well as our research and evaluation work. We went down to just one person for research and evaluation. We had no more technical assistance. We pretty much decimated all of internal DCYF operations. It was very, very painful. It was very painful. But, you know, to bring a bright side, we persevered. A lot of the CBOs that were impacted back then hung on. We were able to find little, you know, philanthropic folks, some foundations to just carry, you know, our family support network just kind of chugged along. And then over time grew and sustained. And then in the next iteration of the RFP, we were able to bring some of those CBOs back. And then, of course, in the last RFP, which is the current cycle we are in, we were able to bring those CBOs back, but then also support them to be strong. So, you know, our CBOs are quite resilient, I know for sure. And I also know that San Francisco's economy is, you know, ebbs and flows. It's going to come back. It doesn't feel it this way. It doesn't feel right now because we're hearing the massive layoffs in the tech sector right now. Which I think I've shared with you before. The private sector's economy goes first. The private sector's economy dictates the city's economy by year. And then for DCYF, because we rely on property tax revenues, we follow the city's economy by a year. So all of that comes after. So whatever's happening right now in the private sector, the city's going to feel it next year. Like hands down, the massive layoffs, we're gonna feel it. And then DCYF's gonna do it. So just brace yourself. But then afterwards, we will get out of it positive.
Similar shift to sort of philanthropic support, you know, to fill gaps, you think it's coming?
We're trying. It's a little hard to fundraise right now. But we're trying.
All right, any more member discussion?
Yeah, I mean, this will get asked a question to the folks in this room more so. It's like, just wondering, I know a couple of you guys have multiple streams of funding outside of DCYF, or have you had conversations with those? Is that impact also translating over to you guys now? I mean, I know DCYF is, and I know other departments are facing it, but other grants that you're getting, like for instance, if you have DPH dollars, have they discussed with you if you had like DPH dollars, other departments or? No, I'm just asking, just out of curiosity.
I mean, I know other departments are.
Yeah.
I think that DCYF is very open in the way that they discuss their process for going about the cuts, and other departments aren't as transparent necessarily about that process. So I think a lot of grantees know that that's coming, but don't necessarily know as clearly the plan for how the department is going about it. And I would say, you know, nonprofits are also billing it from the private. You know, donor advised funds, anytime tech and private economy,
For sure.
all of the private dollars reduce as well. So
Right.
this is hard for DCYF to do private fundraising. It's also hard for the nonprofit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just wondering, because I know there's like smaller grants out there. There are no departments RFP out for certain, you know, some of these kind of pathways. And I don't know if everyone in this room has those dollars, but just kind of filling it out and seeing, but maybe I'll talk with some of you guys offline just to see, and I can maybe help and contact some of those accounts and see if that, I'm pretty sure if you haven't heard anything, you get multiple streams, and Should be okay. I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm just trying to fill out.
I don't think that document that Teresa's working on with other departments will be
Yeah,
helpful too. I know
for sure.
SPWG tries to also share different department RFPs, so if you ever come across those, forward them to me and I send them out to our full membership list as well, so we can share. At least our members have diversity in city department funding.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Any other committee discussion? I just have one comment. I think all of the questions that I had were pretty much answered, in this discussion, but just piggybacking off of, what you said earlier, in regards to the mayor's priorities, I thought the same exact thing, looking at the contingency cuts. And I'm thinking of especially disconnected Tay, and when we're talking about the citywide economic vitality. And we're thinking, not that that's what of course we want to do, but that in the contingency, it includes youth workforce development. That makes me feel like, wow. And then again, I think you made a really good point in regards to when we're talking about reducing homelessness too. And that is a huge issue that affects especially disconnected Tay in particular. So, that's just a thought that I had, and I think other than that, yeah, all of my questions were answered in the discussion. But yeah, thank you for all the work that DCYF is doing, and it's good to hear at least the transparency that there is here, but doesn't really exist in other places, but yeah.
Well, okay, just be clear, it's a contingency plan.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight really hard.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to fight really hard to not take it because I agree. And
Yeah,
I think that is the argument is that we do need to preserve these dollars and they
Yeah.
are going to CBOs that are going to create that safety net for our children and families.
okay, let's see, okay. Do we have a motion to approve this item? Motion to approve? All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Rebecca, please take a roll call vote.
Member Tory,
Aye.
member Yan,
Aye.
Chair Curry,
Aye.
Vice Chair Simmons,
Aye.
member Galvez.
Aye.
The budget is approved.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so moving on to item, we did 5 already, so we're gonna jump ahead to item 6, which is the report of the OAC chair. I just have 2 quick updates for you all, which is in regards to the OAC retreat and then the Form 700 filing. So starting with the retreat, Rebecca recently sent out a doodle poll to gauge which dates in April we could potentially have our retreat, which is going to take place right here in the DCYF conference room. We will also be meeting soon within leadership to discuss, we'll begin to planning the agenda. And for your Form 700, it is due April 2nd, 2024. So we have a little over a month to get that done and out of the way. And you should all have received this email from the Ethics Commission notifying you, and they're going to send you reminders. So they'll keep coming up in your inbox of your need to file. That's pretty much all for me in terms of my report. Let's see, any in-person public comment? Okay, Raphael, is there any remote public comment?
No public comments.
All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item? Okay, all right, we will move on to item 7, which is Maria's report. So Maria, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. Just to reiterate the importance of filling out your Form 700, please do it. If you don't do it, you get fined. So if you have any questions and need support, Rebecca is an expert on completing Form 700. And quite frankly, it is the way that we demonstrate transparency to our community. We want to make sure that we show that there's no conflict of interest and that we are engaging in this work without any financial benefits to ourselves. So please fill it out. The main thing that we have been working on is budget and this little thing called the RFP. So we've had many hours of deliberation. I'm surprised Rebecca is still here. She's been in deliberation all morning long, all day, and Lamont. So we have spent many days in deliberation, reading proposals and just trying our best to understand the intent and the desires and the hopes and dreams and wishes that's within the proposal so that we can make the best decision possible. I will say again, this cycle, we are really adamant about making sure that we fund programs that will meet performance measures, that will get to those outcomes, because particularly with limited funds, there's no wiggle room, right? We really want to get to the outcomes that we laid out for ourselves and for our community. And so we're spending extra time in these deliberations because that's what we want to see. We want to be able to get there. And then on a fun note, we are going to host our summer resource fair in 2 weeks on February 24th. So for those of you who have not informed Rebecca yet, please let her know whether or not you'll show up and come. Because when you do, a photographer will pretty much follow you for the whole time so that we can take pictures of you being all DCYF official. So that's going to be super awesome. It's such a wonderful time. I know every single year we go, I keep saying, oh my God, we can't do better than last year. And I don't know how Emily does it, but she does. It gets better and better. Last year, I
It
know.
was crazy. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
we had almost 3,000
was
people there. It was amazing. It was like, it's a great way to outreach to parents. And so we want to leave you all today with some reminder. And believe me, this was bought before the budget came out. I was like, where did you guys buy them? But it's, this is the thing, this is the swag that we're going to be giving out to families who show up. So if you are in an office space that sees the public, please let us know and we can give you some posters that you can post. And please take the bag for yourself as you leave. So that's going to be really exciting. And then just a final mention, particularly to our CBOs. Just know that with a budget in a year where budget is constrained, we will sweep every dollar, every penny that's left on the table. So I just everyone knows that, right? Please. If you've got plans for spending down those dollars, please spend it. If you don't, it will be scrutinized because there's no frivolous spending. So just be mindful of making sure that you submit your last invoices on time. Particularly in the environment that we are in, we probably will have very little wiggle room for any waivers or forgiveness. So just make sure that you are on time with spending and make sure that you're spending appropriately. Okay, and with that, I'm complete.
All right, is there any in-person public comment?
I had last member meeting, there were some folks that said they were trying to join the fair and it was a wait list. Is there still a wait list?
Wait, let's, oh,
The table.
to table.
That is a question for Emily and I can connect you with her. You can answer that.
I can answer that.
Oh.
That was amazing.
Who's asking about being on the wait list? We had a couple organizations, I can go back to our notes.
Which agencies? Do you happen to know off the top
I
of
don't
your
know
head?
about-
Okay, because a lot of our grantees are already listed. So if you go to the DCYF.org website homepage, summer resource fair button, you can see every exhibitor that will be there. So check there first to see if they're already on the registration list. We've heard from a lot of agencies about exactly that, but they've actually signed up.
So there's not currently a wait list.
There's a huge wait
Oh,
list.
there is.
Yes,
If
but
there is,
check
DCYF
the list of registered agencies first to see if they're on there, because it's pretty likely that they are. And we're prioritizing DCYF's current grantees to get in, so, yeah, big rough, yes, so this is the summer resource fair page. If you scroll down a little bit more, this is the list of all of our exhibitors, so you can see there's a bunch this year, and right now have 26 agencies on the wait list. So any other summer resource fair questions down here?
She's the brain.
Yeah, and by the way, Maria said that we bought the bags prior to everything. We also split the price with Rec and Park. So.
Even better.
They're an amazing partner. Okay, I hope you guys come to the fair. If you want more flyers and posters, they're in the back. We have more bags too, so. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, any more in-person public comment? Okay, is there any remote public comment?
No public comments.
All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Are there any committee members that wish to comment on this item?
Anyone want to commit to going?
I will commit. Will we really be followed around though?
No.
Okay, okay.
Picture. We'll take a picture and then you can go on your merry way.
Okay. I'll be there,
I will mention that it's also on the same day as the Chinese New Year parade. So,
All right,
How long, can we have a partial time frame commitment or is it the whole?
You don't have to stay for the whole time. It starts from 11 a.m. and ends at 2 p.m. at the county fair building.
What time should I photo be?
Good question. I'll get back to you.
You sign
yeah, I don't think we need a group photo. I think it's more just, it'll be nice
It'd be
to.
nice to have pictures of
Yeah.
you guys, but not
I
required.
I was there last year and I was tabling, but it was an amazing time. I had a fantastic time. I wasn't there, like, I thought it was great for the kids. It was great for the families in particular. That was like amazing.
Yes.
How many people came and like, it was so great to see a lot of people. So I think, folks like yourself, tell your friends to come, you know, I think it's just, I know most of you probably go, but just adding extra to it.
okay, nice. Any more discussion on this item? Okay. We are moving on to item 8, so that's our action items. We so far have 3. Just be sure to fill out the OAC retreat doodle pool, so you can select that, and we'll be squared away with that. Also, file your Form 700, so you gotta do that by April 2nd. And then also, Rebecca, we should expect that the wage equity survey will be sent out once that's sent over to Rebecca, and then Rebecca will send it to us. And, yeah, I think that's all that I have. In that section, is there any public comment? All right, Rafael, is there any remote public comment?
There's no public.
All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Is there any committee members who should discuss? All right, we are moving on to the last item, which is adjournment. So thank you everyone for your participation in today's meeting. I know it's a bit rough, but thank you. The meeting is adjourned at 5:56. We have an hour to spare.